Welcome to 2016. And as tradition dictates, it's time to look back at all those albums that I had missed in the previous year. And starting off, I took a look at one of the requests from the Scandinavian band Anekdoten. Until All the Ghosts Are Gone. So, Until All the Ghosts Are Gone is the sixth studio album from Anekdoten, and I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. So Anekdoten started off in the same vein as one of my favorite progressive rock bands from the 90s, Anglard, and again, I know I'm mispronouncing that. Their approach to music was the same kind of ideology that King Crimson had approached music. Until All the Ghosts Were Gone was the introduction I had to this band, and I'm kind of glad that it is. These guys really wear their influences on their sleeves, and this album especially is very apparent in that. In the olden days, as I said, it was mainly with King Crimson, but with this album, it seems to be more of a modern Opeth and of a mid-70s Camel feel, which doesn't actually surprise me all that much. The very first track, and very likely my favorite track of this album, Shooting Star, definitely shows this in its very apparent influence. For the longest time, I thought these guys were almost ripping off Opeth in just their chord progression and the sounds of their keyboards and guitars on this song. It was lifted right off of Heritage at points. But then I actually took a look at their discography and I realized these guys have been around pretty much the same amount of time as Opeth has. Now, if only Heritage had more songs like Shooting Star. Shooting Star is such a brilliant track. It proves that these guys know what they're doing and that they're very experienced musicians. They know how to make a great song and they understand what progressive rock is all about. Even though I thought they were taking influence a little too much of other artists, they were still pushing the envelope and still developing a great song. I mean, I love that build-up at around the 6-minute mark where it just plateaus into that amazing 6:17. That riding of the wave is just a treat every single time I listen to that song. And the closing part is definitely where you hear that Camel influence. It sounds exactly like something off of Mood Madness or even Snow Goose. Another beautiful track that I love on this album is If All Comes Down to You. I love how moody this is and how atmospheric it is, but it's not quite pessimistic. It does have a little bit of an optimistic presentation. It's still played in mostly a minor key, but it's presented in such a way that it's hopeful. I can't help but get swept away from the sounds of this song. So I love the way that this album is presented in that there's only about 45 minutes worth of music on this album. It is great in its ability to shine the complexity in such a short period of time. I feel like if they had gone past the 50-minute mark, it would have been just stimulus overload and I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I love the digestible take on this and it's something that I'm able to mull over in my head a little bit easier. Unfortunately, after Shooting Star, there's really no other main oomph that happens on this album. There is If All Come Down to You and Our Days Are Numbered. Those are amazing tracks, and I love the fact that it opens, closes, and has that midpoint of those stellar tracks. But the remaining tracks, there's really nothing to write home about. At least in my mind, I felt like the band, even though are presenting amazing music, I don't know, it didn't make that much of an impact on me. So overall, it is a stellar album and one that I highly recommend you listening to. I would have to say stream this with headphones. You want to have a good pair of headphones when listening to this just to get the overall sounds that are being presented with it. But unless you love this type of music, that Scandinavian progressive rock, I wouldn't recommend going out and buying it. I'd recommend streaming it first, just to get a good taste of it and then making up your own mind. But definitely check it out. It is an album well worth listening to. And that's about it. What did you guys think about this album? Let me know what you thought down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you feel like they could have done a little bit better? In my mind, it's probably the best effort I've heard from this band with the limited knowledge that I have with this band. I do need to preface that this is the first time I've listened to this band and I've only really got snippets here and there. And also, what were other albums that I didn't cover in 2015 that you wanted me to review now? I'm definitely checking out all the recommendations, so let me know down below. And that's about it for me. Alright, notes out.